Have you ever twisted open an Oreo, licked the creamy filling, and wondered, how exactly are these legendary cookies made? Well, get ready, because today, we're taking you inside the Oreo factory for an exclusive, behind-the-scenes look at how these iconic cookies come to life. But before we dive in, let's go back to where it all began. Because believe it or not, Oreo wasn't always the king of cookies. The cookie rivalry. How Oreo became #1. In 1908, a cookie named Hydrox hit the market. It had a chocolate biscuit with a vanilla filling. Sound familiar? That's because Oreo didn't arrive until 1912, when Nabisco launched its own version of the cookie. At first, Hydrox was the leader. People thought it tasted better, and it had a strong fan base. So how did Oreo win? Marketing genius. Nabisco rebranded Oreo as a premium treat, gave it a smoother, sweeter taste, and made sure it had the best packaging. Over time, Oreo completely overtook Hydrox, and by the late 20th century, most people didn't even know Hydrox existed. And now, Oreo is the most popular cookie in the world, sold in over 100 countries with more than 450 billion cookies made since 1912. That's enough Oreos to circle the Earth over 380 times. All right, history lesson over. Now, let's get to the good part. How is Oreo actually made? Stick around to the end, because we're revealing a surprising fact about Oreo's design that might just blow your mind. But first, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss more fascinating deep dives into how your favorite foods are made. The ingredients. Where it all begins. At the heart of every Oreo are just a few simple ingredients: wheat flour, sugar, cocoa powder, vegetable oil, salt, and vanilla extract. But don't be fooled by their simplicity. Each ingredient is carefully sourced and selected to maintain Oreo's signature taste and texture. Take the cocoa powder, for example. It's not just any cocoa. It comes from premium beans grown in Ghana, Ivory Coast, and Indonesia, roasted and ground to create that deep, rich chocolate flavor. Once the dry ingredients are blended together, something unexpected happens. Dry ice is added to cool the mixture down. Why? Because this tiny detail ensures the dough maintains the perfect consistency when flour is finally introduced. And just like that, the chocolate dough is ready for shaping. But did you know that each Oreo cookie has a hidden detail in its design? We'll reveal that soon. But first, let's see how the cookies get their iconic shape. Shaping and baking, creating the perfect cookie. Now, it's time to transform the dough into the cookies we all recognize. The dough is fed into a high-speed molding machine, where it's shaped into perfectly uniform biscuits. But have you ever looked closely at an Oreo? The design is more than just for show. Each cookie is embossed with 12 four-leaf clovers, 12 dots, the classic Oreo logo. But why? Well, the design wasn't always this detailed. In fact, the first Oreos had a much simpler design until the current pattern was introduced in 1952. Once shaped, the cookies move onto a high-speed conveyor belt, traveling straight into an 85-meter-long oven, about the length of a football field. The temperature is carefully controlled so that the cookies bake evenly and consistently, crisping up just enough while locking in that signature flavor. But what happens if a cookie isn't baked properly? That's where Oreo's advanced quality control system comes in. The filling, the secret behind Oreo's creamy center. The creamy filling of an Oreo isn't just vanilla flavored. It's a carefully engineered formula designed to be the perfect texture between crunchy cookies. The secret: a precise blend of powdered sugar, vegetable shortening, vanilla extract, and a mystery ingredient that gives it its unmistakable smoothness. Inside massive industrial mixers, the sugar and shortening are whipped together at high speeds until the mixture becomes light and fluffy. Once the secret ingredient is added, the filling is ready to be dispensed. Now, here's where the process gets really cool. Each Oreo is assembled with precision, down to the millimeter. A cylindrical pump deposits the perfect amount of filling onto the bottom cookie. But did you know the bottom cookie is slightly larger than the top? This tiny design tweak ensures the filling stays neatly sealed when the second cookie is pressed on top. And just like that, the perfect Oreo sandwich is complete. You already know that Oreos are made from just a few simple ingredients: flour, sugar, cocoa, vegetable oil, salt, and vanilla extract. But have you ever wondered where these ingredients actually come from? They don't just appear in the factory, ready to be mixed. Each one has traveled an incredible journey, from fields, forests, and even underground mines, before becoming part of the world's most famous cookie. They don't just magically appear in the factory. Each one has a long journey, from vast wheat fields, from distant cocoa farms, from deep underground salt mines, before becoming the perfect cookie in your hands. Let's dive in and uncover their incredible story right now. Flour: how Oreo's signature crunch is born. It all begins in vast wheat fields across the US, Canada, Russia, and Australia. Golden stalks sway under the sun for months, absorbing nutrients from the soil until they reach peak ripeness. Then, massive combine harvesters roll in, cutting through thousands of acres of wheat in just a few hours. But here's where it gets interesting. Not all wheat is good enough for Oreo. Only high-gluten wheat makes the cut. This particular variety is packed with proteins that create just the right texture, crispy enough for that signature crunch, yet strong enough to hold the creamy filling. Once harvested, the wheat is sent to high-tech milling facilities, where it goes through an intense transformation. First, it's cleaned to remove dust and husks. Then, it's ground through massive rollers, gradually breaking down into a fine powdery flour. Finally, it's sifted through ultra-fine mesh screens, ensuring only the smoothest, most consistent flour is used. Every batch is tested in a state-of-the-art lab, analyzing its gluten content, moisture levels, and purity to ensure that every Oreo cookie will have the same perfect texture. But flour alone isn't enough. To balance out the rich cocoa and creamy filling, we need the perfect amount of sweetness. And that takes us to our next key ingredient: sugar. How Oreo's iconic cream filling gets its perfect sweetness. Sugar might seem simple, but its journey is anything but. Every grain of sugar in an Oreo has traveled an incredible path, from the sun-drenched fields of sugarcane to the rich soil of sugar beet farms. In tropical regions like Brazil, India, and Thailand, sugarcane plants grow as tall as a person, soaking in sunlight for months before being harvested. The stalks are immediately crushed under massive rollers to release their sweet juice, which is then boiled down into a thick, golden syrup. Meanwhile, in cooler climates like the US and Europe, sugar beets take a different path. Instead of being crushed, these root vegetables are sliced into thin strips and soaked in hot water, allowing their natural sugars to dissolve into a sweet liquid. At this stage, sugar from both sources is still raw, dark, sticky, and filled with natural molasses. To turn it into the fine, snow-white sugar used in Oreo, it goes through an advanced refining process where filtration removes unwanted colors and flavors. Evaporation concentrates the syrup into crystals. High-speed centrifuges separate out the last traces of molasses. But sugar alone isn't what makes Oreo's filling so irresistibly smooth. For that, we need one more key ingredient: vegetable oil. The science behind Oreo's smooth, melt-in-your-mouth filling, the role of vegetable oil. Ever wondered why Oreo's filling stays creamy and smooth, even at room temperature? Or why it never melts like regular frosting? That's not by accident. It's carefully engineered with a precise blend of vegetable oils. These oils, mostly from soybeans, palm trees, and canola plants, are extracted from seeds under extreme pressure, then refined to remove any unwanted flavors. But here's the trick. If you just mix sugar and oil, you won't get Oreo's creamy texture. To achieve that perfect consistency, the oil undergoes a transformation called hydrogenation. This process partially solidifies the oil, creating that thick, whipped texture that holds its shape yet melts smoothly in your mouth. That's why Oreo's filling never separates or becomes too runny. And while the filling is what makes an Oreo instantly recognizable, there's one more ingredient that gives it its deep, unmistakable flavor: the chocolatey richness of the cookie itself. The deep, chocolatey secret of Oreo, the journey of cocoa. Oreo's signature chocolate flavor starts in the heart of the tropics, where the world's finest cacao beans are grown across Ghana, Ivory Coast, and Indonesia. Cacao trees thrive in humid rainforests, shaded by taller trees. When the pods ripen to a deep yellow or reddish hue, farmers hand harvest them, cutting them open to reveal the sticky, pale cacao beans inside. And here's the surprising part. At this stage, cacao beans don't taste like chocolate at all. To develop that rich chocolate flavor, the beans must undergo fermentation. For several days, they are stacked in wooden boxes or covered with banana leaves, where natural bacteria start breaking down their sugars. This process is critical. Without it, the final cocoa powder would taste dull and flat. Once fermented, the beans are dried under the sun, then sent to specialized factories where they are roasted at precise temperatures to bring out their deep, nutty flavors. After roasting, they are ground into a thick chocolatey paste, then pressed to remove cocoa butter, leaving behind pure cocoa powder. But Oreo doesn't just use any cocoa powder. It uses Dutch processed cocoa, which has been treated to remove bitterness and create a smoother, more balanced chocolate taste. That's why Oreo's cocoa isn't too bitter. It has just the right depth of flavor. Salt and vanilla. The hidden touches that make Oreo unforgettable. Salt might not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think of a sweet treat, but without it, Oreo wouldn't taste the same. A small but crucial amount of fine-grained salt is added to the dough to enhance the chocolate notes and balance the sweetness. And then there's vanilla extract, the final ingredient that gives Oreo its subtle, addictive aroma. The vanilla used in Oreos comes from hand-pollinated orchid flowers in Madagascar, Mexico, and Tahiti. After months of curing and aging, these beans release their signature fragrance, adding just the right amount of warmth and depth to Oreo's creamy filling. With all the ingredients carefully sourced and prepared, the journey isn't over yet. Before an Oreo ever reaches store shelves, it must pass one final challenge: packaging and quality control. Once Oreos are perfectly assembled, they race down a high-speed conveyor belt, where robotic arms stack them neatly into trays. But before they're sealed and shipped worldwide, they must pass one final test. Advanced scanners inspect every cookie, searching for cracks, misaligned layers, or missing filling. Any imperfect Oreos are instantly removed, but they don't go to waste. Instead, they're ground down and recycled into fresh dough, ensuring nothing is wasted. Meanwhile, expert tasters conduct random quality checks, making sure each Oreo has the perfect crunch, flavor, and filling-to-cookie ratio. Then comes packaging. Those plastic trays aren't just for looks. They keep the cookies intact and fresh for up to a year. Sealed in a specialized foil wrap that locks out air and moisture, every Oreo stays as crisp as the moment it left the factory. Ever wondered why dunking an Oreo in milk makes it so much better? It's not just a childhood habit. It's actually science at work. First, there's the texture. The crispy chocolate biscuit soaks up just the right amount of milk, softening slightly without falling apart, if you time it right. This creates the perfect contrast between the initial crunch and the smooth, creamy filling. Then, there's the flavor. Cocoa naturally has a hint of bitterness, but milk's fats help mellow that out, making the chocolate taste richer and the filling even sweeter. It's the ultimate balance. Deep, chocolatey goodness with a hint of creaminess in every bite. And let's not forget the nostalgia factor. Dunking an Oreo takes you back to childhood, bringing comfort, fun, and that tiny moment of joy when you get the perfect milk-drenched but not too soggy bite. Grab an Oreo, give it a dunk, and let the flavors blend into a perfect creamy bite. It's not just a snack, it's a little moment of happiness in every dunk. From classic to birthday cake, from matcha in Japan to wasabi in China, Oreos are constantly reinventing themselves. Whether you eat them straight from the pack, blend them into a milkshake, or bake them into a cheesecake, there's no wrong way to enjoy an Oreo. Love Oreos? Smash that subscribe button. Don't miss out on more behind-the-scenes stories of your favorite snacks. And tell us in the comments, which Oreo flavor is your all-time favorite?